Hi everyone, and welcome to my channel, The Everyman Investor. So I started this channel basically inspired by the conversations I've been having with my friends and colleagues about investments and about retirement planning. Surprisingly, I'm not a financial advisor. The reason my friends and colleagues approached me is because they found out that I have actually been investing regularly and I actually do have a plan to fund my retirement, which got me curious into asking the question, how much of the world is actually financially literate and how many people actually do actively plan for their retirements. So as per the S&P Global Financial Literacy Survey, only about 33% of the world are financially literate, which is very, very surprising. As you can see from this chart here, this map, there are various literacy rates around the world. Mostly the developed nations are more literate and those who are not so developed are not. And yet, surprisingly, in America, only about half of the people who are nearing retirement have adequate retirement savings. In Singapore, where I live, about a quarter of people set aside funds for their retirement. And in the UK, only about 10% of the people have adequate funds for their retirement. And given all three are developed countries, this is really very surprising and rather depressing. So it's important to start young and start planning young, and start your financial investments when you're young so that you can let compound interest work for you. The younger you start your investments, the greater the effect that compound interest will have on growing your investments. So a bit about me. I'm in my 40s now and I'm planning to retire by 50. I started with a first drawn salary of about $2,000 a month, which is way below the median income. And having worked my way up through the ranks and with postgraduate qualifications, I'm now in the upper middle class among income earners. I am basically one of those people who still has to plan my budget regularly. I have to be careful what I set aside in the terms of the amount of cash I have, as well as the amount I invest and the amount I spend, something which basically most people can identify with. Simply put, I am the everyman and I'm an investor as well. I have a low risk appetite and most of my investments are low risk investments. So over the course of my investment journey, I have seen the good, the bad and ugly among financial advisors. Financial advisors are divided into two groups. Those who profit from your investment should be viewed with great suspicion, and those who profit from your profits can be viewed with a lot more trust. So what I aim to do in this channel is to provide you with the adequate information with regards to different financial investment instruments, and that way you can actually steer whichever financial advisor you approach towards what you want, rather than be sweet talked by them into the investment that they want you to put your money into. Okay, for financial investments, the traditional thinking and the traditional teaching is that the younger you are, the more risk you should be taking. A greater exposure to stocks and a less exposure to cash, bonds, and real estate in your early years, and a greater exposure to real estate stocks and real estate bonds and cash as you age, and a lower exposure to stocks the older you get. Now this is my portfolio and it's very obvious that I did the exact opposite of what conventional thinking says to do. I'm heavily overweight in real estate, in savings plans, as well as in a government mandated retirement fund, and I just started my equity journey 2 years ago. Now as a young man trying to establish myself in my healthcare career, I was overworked, underpaid, overstressed, and absolutely sleep deprived. Under those circumstances, I figured that capital guaranteed savings plans would be the best way to go when I first started earning. In that way, I could basically sleep well without being worried about losing my life savings, and I wouldn't have a heart attack every time the stock market dropped. As I approached my mid-30s and into my early 40s, and as I finished paying off a majority of my savings plans, I had the cash and the ability to be able to buy a house and subsequently a small investment apartment. So when I started investing in equities 2 years ago, I went what I thought was the smart way. I paid for subscriptions to various stock recommendation services and looked on in horror as recommendation after recommendation crumbled in price. It was basically a rough ride. So it was a tough start to equity investing simply because I had no financial background. And reading all those financial reports, listening to all the mumbo jumbo from the emails and the podcasts that I subscribed to made very little sense to me. Now, 2 years on, I have learned a lot, and I now understand most of the language that stock traders talk about, and I also understand how to read how to read earnings reports, and how to interpret the various financial data that are presented in those reports. Nowadays, I do my own research into what stocks to buy. I go by rules that I have learned as basically I lost initially, and I'm seeing a lot of more green in my portfolio. There are of course losses as well, and these are mainly in those stocks that are basically hypergrowth stocks, and I promise to elaborate on what hypergrowth stocks are in a future video. So what I plan to do is I plan to introduce various different investment options to you as you start planning your own unique investment journey. I will also comment on various macroeconomic factors that affect investments, and also give you an idea of what mega trends are worth investing in. I will pull back the curtain on the so-called Wall Street legends, 1000% gains, and performance guaranteed or free subscription that many of the subscription services provide, and basically show you the raw data that the raw returns that these subscription services actually give. I'll also shine a spotlight on various stocks that I have bought or plan to buy in the future at the right valuations, as well as stocks that I am watching closely. So all in all, I invite you to join me as I provide you with the information for you to plan your own investment journey. I will only mention this once in this video, and that is I will let my content do the talking. I believe that if my content is useful and educational to you, you will subscribe without me having to prompt you at every video about subscribing to this channel. So I thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Thank you very much.